so much data to parse through. So to help us make sense of all of these, let me bring in our guest today. We're joined by Bob Herrera-Lim. He's Managing Director at New York-based consulting firm Teneo. Good morning and welcome to the program, Bob. It's been a while.
Hi, good morning. It's good to be here.
As I said, it's been a while since I spoke to you, so I haven't actually had a chance to talk to you about the flood control fiasco that's currently gripping the country. So let me start with that from a big picture. What is your assessment of the country's current state of affairs? And as a follow-up, do you think that this, President Marcos's gambit is going to pay off? By that, I mean, he exposed all of this. He's hoping to root out the rot, but also at the same time hoping that doesn't hurt him too much politically in the end. What do you think?
Yeah, so obviously there is a lot of disappointment, even anger on the part of Filipinos about the massive theft of public money, right? So that's the first thing. So the second thing is people are hoping that the administration will take the necessary steps to not only bring people to justice, the ones who are responsible for it, but to fix the system so that this does not repeat itself to the same magnitude in the future. And I think that's where we are right now, and that's why people are sort of in a wait or see or even somewhat pessimistic attitude, because they would like to see progress being made in terms not only of the publicized investigations, right, that you are seeing in the Senate or in the House previously, but also real steps being taken to address the problems from the start, from the budget process all the way to the disbursement to the politicians who are accountable. So I think we're still very early in that second part. People are maybe giving the president the benefit of the doubt, but that is benefit of the doubt. That is not full confidence in that. So if this does not work out, there are no significant changes in terms of reforms, in terms of convictions, people will get disappointed, and that is going to be a problem for the administration.
I see it both sides. On the one hand, yes, I know the clamor for accountability. People want to see those responsible for this jailed at this point in time. But on the other hand, we also speak to a lot of government officials who say, well, look, we got to get our ducks in a row, right? We got to get the cases built up correctly. We got to have an airtight cases for all of these, because the last thing you want to do is file those cases and ultimately have them be let off on technicalities, right? What for you is a reasonable timeline here?
Okay, so we're talking about the Philippines, right? Where the challenge is finding out what the timeline is in terms of being reasonable is a big question. But I think you need at least 3 to 6 months. Okay, so I think, in our opinion, the patience of the people will continue until maybe the first quarter of next year, because we're coming into Christmas season. It's only a month until basically the country shuts down. And then we get started in January, and by February, people will start asking what's really happening. So I agree with you. The government does need to get all its ducks in a row. It needs to prosecute them effectively so that these cases and the reforms are done properly. But at the same time, there also needs to be much more transparency in how things are going. There needs to be much more transparency in what the different agencies are doing, because otherwise you'll just get bits and pieces of news here, and people will continue to speculate who is being protected, who is not being protected. Is this political vendetta against some people? So I think at the end of the day, yes, there will be 3 to 6 months that people will give this administration still, and that's what we're looking at.
Are you happy, Bob, with how the ICI, the Independent Commission for Infrastructure, has been handling the cases, the hearings? I mean, I know it's been largely held behind closed doors, but they've promised us at this point that they will publicize them moving forward. They're just working on the rules for the live streaming. But in general, based on what you've read, are you happy with how they've conducted it?
I think they're still within that period of let's give them the benefit of the doubt. There's Babe Sings on, there's the person from SGV who are credible with the business community, and they carry that credibility with them. So I think they still deserve the benefit of the doubt, but over time, people will ask 2 questions. What have you found? Not just in terms of people who participated in the corruption, in the theft, in the fraud, but in terms of the problems with the budget process, with whoever in Congress participated in this and allow this to happen. Because if you go with what we call only the small fry, which are relatively the low-level bureaucrats, people are going to say, then the upper-level politicians are being protected. And that is the dangerous part for the administration. If that perception takes hold, there will be disappointment and there will be frustration that will increase. So I think I'm still giving them the benefit of the doubt. They were just formed. It takes a few months even. I'm a lawyer. It takes a few months to really get an investigation going. You don't want to be premature because we know that once you release something today, if it comes out in social media, everyone says, person is guilty. So there must be a robust process. But at the same time, the ICI must assure us that the process is robust.
That's right. A lot of these officials are now crying trial by publicity. But let's shift to the economy, Bob. I know you talk to a lot of investors as well, and I honestly, from my perspective, we've not been getting a lot of good numbers. You saw the Q3 GDP number, which was a big shock at coming in at only 4%. Even the most bearish of analysts' predictions that we surveyed had it at least 4.9%, right? And then you also have the Philippine stock market at multi-year lows now. We're saying 5-year lows, but really it's gone back to where it was from 10 years ago. What do you make of all of this?
Okay, so it's difficult to disentangle a lot of variables, right? We went through the whole tariff trade story, and definitely that might have affected some of the investment in the country, the perception of where the country fits in the final outcome when it comes to trade in Southeast Asia. Now, having said that, we're not a major exporting economy unlike Malaysia, Thailand, or Vietnam. So we should have been insulated from that. So really the disappointment is in some of the domestic and investment components of third quarter growth. And from that, again, that could have been affected by foreign factors, the trade war. That could also have been affected by the corruption controversy. It could have been people being less confident in all these things. It's difficult to parse things out, but I do think that the thing is, going forward, that confidence or lack of confidence or weaker confidence will probably persist until people get a sense that things are going in the right direction. And things are going in the right direction is not only the corruption controversy, but also a plan from the government on how to cope with the changing external environment, right? That there are these tariffs, that tariff rates are relative. Some countries will be more competitive than others. Where are we positioning ourselves? How are we going to cope with the situation, adapt and adjust? So you need two things to be firing going forward. One is a plan to adjust to the external environment. The second is really to build people's confidence that real reforms are taking place. And those are going to be two very difficult things.
You're absolutely right. It's going to take a lot of will. And thank you for bringing up the external factors because I know at this point we're looking at a 19% tariffs to the U.S., but all the officials we talk to, the government officials we talk to, all say, look, we're still in negotiations behind the scenes, right? A couple of weeks ago, there was some controversy over the fact that the U.S. gave some ASEAN countries like Thailand, Cambodia, and Vietnam preferential 0% tariffs on some products. And people are asking, why did the Philippines get that? But okay, let's assume we're stuck at 19% now. What is the best case scenario that we could possibly work out with these negotiations? Is it exemptions for certain products? Is it, for this to only be only for a specific period of time? What do you think?
Yeah, your best, again, on the other side is the US is very unpredictable right now in terms of the tariffs, right? So what you're hoping for is to avoid a hit in your most important export sectors, which are basically semiconductors and garments. Semiconductors are still exempted. Garments are getting hit and they will have to be competitive. Our problem is we have structural factors that make our other manufacturing exports less competitive, which range from infrastructure to just unpredictable policy making at the local government and national government levels. So that has to still be resolved. So the challenge really for us in terms of where we stand right now is we have never been competitive as a manufacturing destination, or not been as competitive as we should have been over the last 2 to 3 decades. That's why we lost a lot of manufacturing investment or failed to gain them. And that is what we need to do going forward to work on that. But that requires a large amount of coordination, and that's going to be difficult. for the government. So yeah, compared to other countries, Vietnam is pursuing reforms to strengthen its domestic sector. It is pursuing multilateral ties to gain access to markets. Indonesia just signed an economic partnership agreement with the EU. There are other countries are moving to sort of secure their markets, secure access to technology, and that's the same thing we should be doing.
If not manufacturing, what other industries could there be that we could capitalize on? I mean, the other argument that I keep hearing from other analysts is, well, the U.S. is keep saying that the Philippines is their strongest ally in the Indo-Pacific, right? And we can see that on the defense military-industrial complex, there have been a number of they have committed billions in assistance and defense spending. But how do we bridge those two things together? I mean, is there any way that we could work out an industry that could be relatively insulated from all of these?
No, it's difficult, right? So you have all this, news that maybe the BPO industry is under threat from a draft bill right now that says call back all the call centers. So just protecting our current turf, the things that work for us is already a challenge, right? We already have so many issues with how do we make the agricultural sector productive? How do we make the manufacturing sector more productive and attractive? And just working on this will already take a lot of the government's time and effort. And I would suggest we focus on those first. Protect what we have, because the risk is if we don't protect what we have and you get a shock, then you will see a lot of people out of work. And that is the worst possible scenario in this case.
There's no part of the AI supply chain that we could be, I don't know, competitive in?
To be competitive in the AI supply chain, it's either you're on the material side, right?
Yeah.
Batteries, semiconductors. Do we have the power? Do we have the resources to be competitive on the material side? Not in the very near future, right? So the second question is, do we have the technical skills and the technical capabilities? And I will give you the honest answer. I'm not optimistic that a wide part of our population can participate in the AI revolution because it requires skills. And as you have seen from all the assessments of our educational system, our skills have degraded. We suffered immensely because of the pandemic. We have not clawed ourselves back out of that. I know there are people like Sunny Angara and Mendoza at Department of Education who are trying their best, but it's a deep hole that we have dug ourselves into. And let's be honest about that. It is a deep hole when you compare ourselves to our peers in Vietnam, Malaysia. So it's not to put down the Philippines, but it is to admit the reality that we're facing.
Yeah, I asked because I think that is one of the things that the semicon industry is hoping for, at least that we could, fill part of that supply chain for AI chips at the very least. I don't know, produce prefab wafers, for instance. But I have to let you go very quickly. But okay, I know there's a lot to be done. We need to see real reforms and all of that. But what's one industry you're optimistic about, Bob? Is there anything?
I might have to be. No, I think we're still a consumption-driven economy, right? So we still send a lot of people abroad in sectors that are needed. Healthcare, shipping,
hospitality,
caregiving.
Yeah.
So that is one of sort of the bedrocks of our economy. And they'll be there, right? Even with all the immigration issues, these people will still get abroad because the developed economies need Filipinos. But it's not an optimal situation. It's not an optimal solution to keep sending our people abroad, breaking up families.
Yeah.
We have to find a way to keep them here and to give them jobs. But that, for the short term, is our saving grace.
But and also at the same time work on real reforms and protecting our own turf. Great insights there, Bob. We'll leave that there. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us today. Bob Herrera-Lim, Managing Director at Teneo.